Immigration is set to surge. Could this mean the end of affordable housing in Australia? And if you end up finding value in this video, it'd mean the world to me if you could hit that like button, as it really helps out the channel. And a big thank you to all our subscribers for your support. It really inspires us to create more content, which I hope you'll enjoy. The Australian government's population statement is an annual report which examines how the Australian population is expected to change, both now and in the future. The most recent publication predicts a net overseas migration of 235,000 people a year, but the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, believes that this will be much higher, saying that it's a reasonable assumption that the numbers published in the budget may be higher, and predictions expect this to be as high as 300,000 people. The Treasurer goes on to say, we've got serious skills and labour shortages in our economy, and they're acting as a handbrake. The scene is set for migration to skyrocket. So what does this mean for Australian property? A recent research paper published in June 2020 titled "The Impact Immigration Has on Housing Prices in Australia" suggests it can have a significant impact on housing prices, with data showing that for every 1% increase in population due to immigration, it can lead to a 0.9% increase in housing prices, finding that, and I quote, house prices would have been around 1.4% lower per annum and units 0.8% lower if there had been no immigration. And to put this in perspective, based on a median house in Melbourne, it means an additional $556,000 in capital growth over the next 30 years, cementing Australia's spot in the world's most unaffordable housing market. A report by the Migration Council of Australia found that by 2050, Australia's projected population will be about 38 million people. That's almost 12 million more people than today. And that with the absence of migration, this would be expected to only be around 24 million people. By 2050, migration will contribute more than $1.6 trillion to Australia's GDP, and that it'll be responsible for around 15.7% of workplace participation. And this is really important, as workplace participation is a key indicator of the overall health and strength of the labour market. A high employment participation rate suggests that a large number of the population is actively engaged in the labour market, earning a living, which leads to increased economic growth and prosperity. Australia's population is aging, and workplace participation is becoming more and more important. The rental market in Australia is already stretched, with the national vacancy rate being 1.3% in December 2020. It resulted in only 39,568 available properties across the country. An influx in migration will increase the pressure. We've already seen a 24% increase in rental prices over major cities in the past 12 months. This affects real everyday people. Let's take a look at Emily's story. She and her 13-year-old daughter, Dottie, were told they needed to move out of their long-term rental after it had been recently sold. Having searched relentlessly despite having a perfect rental history, they couldn't find anything. Emily said that there was literally zero houses available on the Gold Coast. And this is just one example of how the rental crisis is affecting everyday people. This story repeats across Australia. The problem only compounds with many investors choosing to take their rental properties at a long term and opting for the short term rental market. Some councils are already looking at ways to counter this, with owners being asked to return their properties to the general market or face hefty penalties. I personally believe that immigration has made Australia a great and prosperous country. The primary concern for many who are against immigration are concerned about their job security and increased competition created. The Productivity Commission is an independent research and advisory body that helps the Australian government make better policies in the long-term interest of Australians. In 2016, they published their findings on the relationship between immigration to Australia and the labour market outcomes of Australian workers. They found, and I quote, Once we control for the impact of experience and education on the labor market outcomes, we find that there's almost no evidence that immigration has harmed over the decades since 2001 the aggregate labor market outcomes of those born in Australia, natives, as well as the incumbents, native and previous immigrants. Australia is facing a housing crisis as the number of new households is growing faster than the number of new homes being built, leading to increased pressure on housing demands. The rise in single-person households and the number of new homes being built has slowed down due to supply chain problems and worker shortages. The situation is further compounded by the fact that unoccupied dwellings such as second homes and holiday homes are no longer available to rent by newly formed households. If the Australian government can solve the housing supply dilemma, all things considered, immigration will only benefit Australia both in the long term and short term. So what do you think? Will immigration to Australia be beneficial or will it make us worse off? Leave your comments below. Here at Hunter Galloway, we're mortgage brokers who get home loans approved. We help Australia-wide and don't charge a fee for our service. So reach out and contact us online at huntergalloway.com.au or call us on 1300 088 065. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you then.